Hey guys, it's Ryan here with HobbiesofaMan. Once again, and today we're going to be doing another comic book review. Today we're going to be looking at Blue Beetle Graduation Day. This is a one-shot volume. This is the whole story contained here, although it leads into the Dawn of DC Blue Beetle title, and it's pretty exciting stuff. So yeah, this is done by Josh Trujillo. He does the storyboarding, the story of the story of the series, actually. And then the art is done by Adrian Gutierrez. Sorry, switching between languages and pronunciations is hard to do. And the colors are done by Will Quintana. And someone else worked on this too, but I can't remember who it is. Let me double check here. Yeah, the colorist is Will Quintana. And the letterer is Lucas Gattoni. Sergio Acuña, and Rafael Albuquerque, Albuquerque, were the ones that did the special covers for the Walmart and Target exclusives. And I have the Target exclusive here because I like the poster for the Target exclusive, which is right here. Let me see if I can get it out for you guys. I can't find a poster board that fits this. So I haven't been able to put it up, but I will eventually, and I'm very excited about that. I'm very looking forward to this a lot because I really enjoy how this poster looks. However, I do think that the original cover, which you can see right here, is the best cover out of all of them. I just wanted the poster, so I got that version. I also want to mention the price of this book. It's $15, which is a great price. This is more in line with a manga volume in terms of price. And it has about 200 pages of content here, I would say. I'm not exactly sure how much. It doesn't have page numbers, but it has 6 issues. It has design extras. It has all of the covers that came with the story. All of the alternate covers. And it also has a few pages of the first volume of the Blue Beetle series, or the first issue of the Blue Beetle series for the Dawn of DC. So overall, this is a great volume in terms of how much it costs compared to what it gives you. It's very, very good. I really enjoyed this. I really wish this was a hardcover, just because I've generally been enjoying hardcover comic books lately. But overall, good stuff there. So the publisher is obviously DC, and the demographic for this, I would definitely say it falls directly into teen. A lot of comic books kind of skirt the edges here between teen, which aimed at 13-year-olds, and like adult, aimed at like 17 and older kind of people. But this one definitely falls into the teen. I would definitely call this like a YA type story, but YA in the kind of way that YA was in the early 2000s and into the 2010s. Not what it is today, which is mostly like 17 plus, aimed at women. This is kind of more of a Harry Potter type of YA type of story, instead of a kind of like Throne of Glass or whatever, the Sarah J. Maas series type of YA. So keep that in mind. In terms of genres here, we have superhero, we have sci-fi, and we have coming of age, which I think is the most important aspect of this story. And I don't know what to call it, but if there's like a genre that involves like Hispanic people, as in like this is made for Hispanics, this would kind of fall into that, because a lot of the text, especially early on in the first issue, is in Spanish and it has no translation. So technically it is all flavor text. It is not necessarily important that you know what it means, but I do think that you miss out on a lot of interactions with it not being in English. And I'm guessing this was a deliberate choice in order to kind of illustrate this fact that, Hispanic people kind of deal with this, in their life. But I think it would have been better, for the sake of broader kind of reach of the audience, to have all of these bits of Spanish also translated underneath. Although you can easily translate it with your phone nowadays, so it's not really that big of a deal, right? So yeah, it does not have an adaptation. This is not old enough to really be part of the animated DC universe, but there is a Blue Beetle movie coming out, within days of when I post this. And so you can kind of say that it's an adaptation, especially because something that is directly referenced here actually was made for the movie, but the movie came out after the comic book. So it was debuted here in the comic book. So that's really interesting there. I quite like this kind of interesting kind of stuff that happens here. And straight up, the rating for this is a 4.5 out of 5. And the reason I didn't give it a 5 out of 5, even though I really enjoyed it, is something that we're going to talk about later. So yeah, the premise here is that Jaime is graduating from high school. He is moving on into the next step of his life. However, he is unsure, like many of us were when we graduated high school, and many of us probably still are. You know, if you're in university and you really don't know where you're going to go next, he is unsure about where to take his life. And he's also having problems with the fact that his suit, his Beetle, and you know the character that gives him power, is malfunctioning or not acting the way that it's used to. And basically things aren't going the way that he expected them to. And so this all kind of comes to a head when it turns out that there's this attack coming from the Reach, from the enemy of Jaime, the kind of general bad guys that Jaime has to face. And this is happening at the worst time because Jaime has also been benched at this kind of point in his life. So he's not supposed to be actively pursuing villains right now. He's supposed to be taking it easy and kind of figuring out where he wants to go. And so this kind of creates a lot of issues, right? So overall, really, really good stuff here. I really enjoy this premise of the story. So we're going to go into it. This is where I get into spoiler territory, and I kind of maintain a lot of spoilers beyond here. So if you're not interested in that, please just skip straight to the rating and skip over all of the other sections here. So you've been warned. I made this warning specifically because I want more people to read this. And if you watch my videos, maybe you've already read this, or you might not end up reading it because you're not interested in knowing all of the spoilers, right? So I just want to make you guys aware of that. Usually I don't think to say this because I cover things that are kind of old already. So yeah, the plot line here, spoilers, like I said, starts with Jaime being introduced while he's fighting this guy called Fadeaway, this character that apparently is like another legacy character from a different villain. And he finishes this fight. He doesn't actually win, but he doesn't lose either. It's kind of like a we'll meet again next time, Blue Beetle kind of situation. And so he realizes his mom has called him 33 times, and he rushes off to his graduation ceremony. And it's a huge one. It's a very kind of big school. It's a scene I've seen a few times, but I never actually experienced. My own high school was actually really, really small because I went to a type of charter school, and so my class was actually quite tiny. But it's something I've seen in many movies, you know, before, and I've actually gone to a normal kind of high school graduation before. So, yeah. And as he's being called up to go to the stage to get his diploma, he actually has to rush off into space because his suit is receiving a transmission, but the transmission is not coming clearly with all of the kind of atmospheric interference, and so it shoots off to space. Kind of forces Jaime to go away from where he's supposed to be for a bit, and it gets this mission, this transmission. And it's kind of suspicious, and it might be from the Reach, and I think it is actually from the Reach, but it kind of messes with Jaime a bit. So yeah, eventually he returns home, and it's actually quite a few hours later, and it's actually nighttime now, and so he shows up. Everyone kind of says things to him in a kind of jumble, and before he can answer them, Superman shows up. And I really enjoyed this little interaction here between Superman and Jaime's mother. It was really, really cute. It was all in Spanish, and I just really enjoyed it. I thought it was really, really fun to see Superman speak Spanish, and also to treat this nice, you know, mom, Hispanic mother, very nicely. I really enjoyed that. I thought it was great because usually, you know, kind of the immigrant parents are kind of shown in a relatively negative light. I think it's pretty honest how they're kind of shown, but they rarely ever get to be defined by their good characteristics. They're usually defined by their kind of harsher, kind of like, you need to do better than I ever did kind of characteristic, right? So I like that moment. I really enjoyed how that kind of worked. And Jaime's parents are actually shown really, really well throughout this book. So I really enjoy those little moments there. And his family and his friends are also quite great. So yeah. It turns out that Superman showed up to to ask Jaime to lay low, to not be a superhero for a while he figures out what he's going to do with his life, what the next step in his life is. And even though he doesn't say it in a bad way, Jaime definitely takes it in a way that it's pretty difficult to stomach. It kind of sucks, you know, the greatest superhero ever comes over to tell you, hey man, we can't let you be a superhero right now because you're kind of unfocused. And that kind of stings, right? Even if he does it with the best intention and he's nice about it, it does kind of hurt Jaime a bit. And so that's that happens. And then Jaime goes back inside. His family kind of has a party with him, and they kind of do things. They give him a bunch of gifts, but all of these gifts are functional things. They're all about getting him to move to Palmyra City, which is the location of the Blue Beetle movie, but also this new location in Texas that has been created specifically for Blue Beetle. And I'm guessing this is going to be specifically his city. And to me, the city reads like it's based on Dallas, or kind of amalgamation of Dallas, Austin, San Antonio, and Houston, you know, kind of the big cities here in Texas. That's cool. I really enjoy it. To me, it mostly seems like Dallas because it is a tech-based kind of city, a city that has a lot of tech places here, and well, Dallas, where I live right now, actually has quite a few of those. So it's pretty interesting. I quite like it. I thought it was cute. And he's being shipped off to Palmyra City to work at his aunt's restaurant as a chore boy / restaurant worker while he decides what to do with his life. And so he gets there. He works with his aunts, and honestly, he hates it. He really dislikes what he's doing. He doesn't like that he's benched, and he's kind of just having a horrible time, right? But what happens is that the yellow beetle shows up, and this character is called Dynastius, after a type of beetle, I think, kind of like a Hercules beetle, you know, the ones that have the 3 prongs and that are super strong. I think it's based on that. And this character is from El Salvador, so I think it's really fun that all the Blue Beetles, or all of the Beetle characters, are Hispanic in some way. I really enjoy it. I think it's fun and interesting. So it'll be cool to see all of the representation that we can get out of that. So because if you guys don't know, Hispanic people kind of come in all colors and vibes and kind of ethnic backgrounds, if you want to look at it like that. So yeah, and so we get introduced to the city after we get introduced to Jaime's aunt and to Dynastis, and then Jaime is attacked. Dynastis has shown up to beat the shit out of him because it turns out that she is initially a villain. She comes off as an antagonist, and she's super strong, and she's also Hispanic, like I said. And Kajda, the beetle, the Blue Beetle, turns off mid-fight for some reason. And Ted Cord, the second Blue Beetle, shows up to help and to introduce his sister Victoria Cord. And I really liked the panel where she's introduced. It looked really, really great. And then we get introduced to the Yellow Beetle, who is Xiomara, and it's spelled with an X, although in this case, I think it is said like an S or a Z kind of sound. Because I can't think of a different pronunciation of X that works. Like, sometimes Jimena is spelled with an X, and that's like a G sound, right? And then in Texas, the X is a J sound, so Texas. And in Mexico, it's also a J sound. But I don't see how that would work here. So I'm going with an S or a Z sound, but if that's wrong, if anyone knows how this is actually pronounced, let me know. But I'm gonna go with Xiomara. So Xiomara is introduced, and Ted gives Jaime some advice, some pep talk that's very sorely needed. And then Starfire shows up, and I love Starfire so much, mostly from Teen Titans. So I really enjoy her showing up and kind of being a mentor, but also someone close to Jaime's age, because Jaime doesn't need adults to tell him what to do, because even though he probably appreciates their knowledge, they're so far removed from his current situation, even if they've gone through it before, that it doesn't come off as meaningful advice, right? So I really enjoy Starfire being brought in and helping him out, because yes, she's older, but she's not significantly older than him. She's not like in her 40s like Superman or Ted Kord might be, right? So she's kind of an older sister type character, and I really liked that. I thought that was really, really fun, and I really enjoyed her showing up. And she takes him under her wing, and she kind of shows him some ideas, some techniques, some things to do, and I really enjoy this part of the story here. Then Victoria talks to Xiomara, and they kind of discuss some things, but Victoria kind of comes off suspicious, but not necessarily evil. So I really like her. I think she's kind of this kind of neutral kind of character that kind of leans a little bit more evil compared to Ted Kord's kind of like innate goodness, and also to everyone else's kind of like more general lawfulness, right? So I enjoy their conversation there. Starfire and Starfire and Jaime are then attacked by Nitida, who is another beetle. This one is green, and she has different kind of powers here. I almost want to think of her as a cricket, but I don't really remember if we got introduced to what type of beetle she is, and her powers don't really correlate to an insect. She kind of has this like polymorph ability, so she can change her shape, and it works out really well. There's a really cool, interesting kind of introduction to her by kind of appearing and then kind of refracting out into a shape, and I enjoy that. And also, then she grows really, really big, and she has this kind of Cthulhu vibe to her, which I liked as well. And Jaime and Starfire eventually sort of win the fight there, but they get a big old lore dump here, where it turns out that Jaime's beetle is made by the Reach, who are this evil conquering force, and the two other beetles that we know so far, Dynastis and Nitida, are made by the Horizon, which are a more pacifistic version of the Reach. They're the same alien species, but they're fundamentally opposed in terms of what they want out of life. And so the Horizon are actually a kind of refugee group that are trying to kind of deal with that. And so they send out these two beetles in order to combine with humans and take out the blue beetle, the Reach weapon. And then we kind of get through all of that. We kind of figure out what's going on. But throughout all of this, they are still acting antagonistically, and so they are being dealt with like they are antagonists. And so Jaime eventually accidentally frees Dynastis, and then this leads to a group of heroes, not necessarily the Justice League or the Justice Society of America. I don't think they're either one, but it is a kind of a group that kind of seems like one of those teams. Made up of let me pull this up actually. Made up of Cyborg, Black Condor, Shazam, Jessica Cruz, Green Lantern, and Wally West, Flash, and they're kind of fighting against Dynastis and Nitida, and they're kind of not winning per se. And then Jaime joins the fight first to kind of fight against the two beetles, but then eventually ends up saving them and trying to take their side because he really realizes that they are in the right and the heroes are actually being the bad ones here. And then while this is all happening, a new transmission shows up, and Jaime has to deal with a little bit of negative kind of situations here, but also with the fact that this Horizon ship is falling into Earth. It is damaged, and things are not looking good for it. But Jaime has the power to fix it. And so Batman and Superman are like, okay, Jaime, you've proven that you're the only one here that has the right idea so far. So you take point, you tell us what to do. And so Jaime, with the help of these other heroes, saves the day. And it's great. He gets a new power-up. He gets the Legado Army, which is actually Legacy in English. And I'm not exactly sure how this is. Like, I understand the symbolic aspect of like Jaime understanding his role and kind of crystallizing as an individual, and so he gets a power up. This is very anime. This is, you know, kind of bread and butter for anime. So I understand this kind of story point, but I'm not exactly sure what it means to call this armor the Legacy armor, because it doesn't look like Ted Kord messed with it, or that Jaime is taking in advice from the original Blue Beetle. It just looks like Jaime is understanding his place in this group of people, in the legacy of the Blue Beetle, and then that affirmation kind of gives him the power up. But then the name shouldn't be that. It should be something else. But it doesn't really matter. The point is that he gets a power up. It's great. It looks good, and it has a sweet name. And so they fix the problem. And then there's a kind of a quick wrap up here, and then a pretty substantial kind of setup for the next story here, which is the start of the series. And overall, the plot line here is really, really great. I really enjoyed it. In terms of characters, we have Jaime, who I really enjoy. And I like his vibe. I like his situation. I empathize with his situation, because even though I didn't necessarily struggle when I left high school, I am struggling now as I'm near finishing university. I don't know what I'm necessarily doing with my life, and I'm not really sure where the next step is, what to do. And so I really empathize with that sort of aspect of the story, but I also empathize with the kind of idea that sometimes as a teenager, you're completely lost and no one can really help you except for yourself. You have to figure out your own kind of problems. So I really like that. I think that's good. I enjoy Paco and Brenda, and I kind of glossed over their part of the story here, but it's pretty fun. I quite like their interactions. Paco is kind of like a musclehead. He's kind of dumb, but good. And Brenda is the smart one in the group. And hopefully Paco and Brenda become kind of Jaime's sidekicks. Brenda could definitely be like a kind of an oracle type character for Jaime, and she could definitely work with Ted Cord and Victoria, and that would be really, really great. And Paco can be the guy that helps with all of the other stuff, you know, with the ship, or with helping Jaime deal with his suit and stuff like that. I think that'd be really, really great. Then we have Jaime's family, his mom, his dad, and his sister, and I really enjoy them. His little sister looks really, really funny. She has like wild hair, and I really like that. I think it's fun. I have cousins that had like that same kind of vibe, so I really like that a lot. And then there's Superman, which I've already talked about. Batman, I really enjoy his kind of point in the story here, because he's not asshole Batman. He's compassionate. I'm a father, and I understand what you're going through because all my kids did too. Kind of Batman, and I really like that. I think he's great. Then we have Dynastis and Xiomara. I really enjoy her character quite a lot. We have Nitida. I can't remember the character's name, the character that drives the Nitida suit, but I like her. She kind of has this kind of like goth girl vibe that I like. I enjoy that. We have Black Condor. I don't know anything about this character. It comes off mean, but kind of like what you would think Batman would be doing, Black Condor is doing in this story. So that works. Then we have Cyborg. He has a really meaningful interaction with Starfire, but I don't really have too much attachment to him. Shazam was fun. I really enjoyed the Shazam's character, especially thanks to the 2 movies. But I don't know too much about him, so overall, that was good. Wally West, nothing to say about that one. Jessica Cruz is not a character that I know at all, but it was cool that she's also Hispanic and that she's a Green Lantern, so I like that character. I'm willing to check out more of her stuff. And then we have Victoria, who I really like. I think her vibe is great. And then we have Ood and the Horizon. And so these guys are the aliens. And overall, lots of great interactions between all the characters. Overall, really, really good stuff here. In terms of world building, we have the Reach and the Horizon and how they're different and what they are. We get a quick rundown of all of Blue Beetle's kind of history and kind of vibe. And basically the fact that, you know, he helped save the world before, but he's also not really a complete hero yet. He hasn't been someone that has a string of success. He is still kind of figuring himself out. So I like that. We get introduced to 2 new Beetles, and then we're teased for a 3rd one. And this is the Red Beetle that shows up at the end of the story. Then we have a new character, Fade Away, which is a legacy character, and then a new version of Gimmicks, and I don't know this character at all. I don't know either of these villain characters, but it doesn't matter. The story tells me exactly what I need to know about them. And then we learn about the Reach and Tamarin War that happened many, many centuries ago. So overall, really, really good stuff here. There's a lot of great world building here that is really useful to situate you in the story, to introduce you to the character, and also to get you set up for the fact that there's more going on, and that the Reach are not just a generic character or villain group, but they're actually kind of a meaningful part of the tapestry of the DC story. So overall, good stuff there. In terms of artwork and fan service, there's no fan service, as in there is no kind of naughty bits. It's a pretty PG story in terms of how the characters look, how they act, and what they're wearing and stuff like that. There is fan service in terms of callbacks to older kind of stories. Of course, Ted Cord is there. We get a reference to the original Blue Beetle from the comic books that featured him. Obviously there's a bunch of different characters that show up that are not necessarily Blue Beetle characters. So there's a lot of fan service in that sense, but that is kind of par for the course for comic books. That is kind of what they're meant to do in the shared universe type stories. And in terms of artwork, really, really great. You initially kind of feel a little bit lost. Some of the facial expressions, particularly these like big closed-eyed smiles, are a little bit off-putting initially, but you know, by the end of the first issue, you kind of get used to it, and then everything else works really, really well. It kind of has this kind of like anime-inspired kind of look to certain things, but it is very much a Western comic book type style. So overall, really, really great. I really enjoy the colors here. They're all very vibrant and fun, and it feels good to look at. So overall, the artwork is really, really great. I like the pacing of the fights, and I like how the poses for the characters are great, and overall, really, really good stuff, you know, overall. So yeah, in terms of a rating, it's a 4.5 out of 5, like I mentioned before. And the reason that it's not a 5 out of 5, it's because I wasn't completely immersed in the story for one simple reason. This skews younger than what I want to read. I really enjoy, you know, more adult, but not necessarily like raunchy or gritty stories. And this one definitely feels like it's more aimed at teenagers that are only starting to get into the later stages of puberty and later stages of their high school life, or right in the middle of them. And so that is kind of pretty removed from where I am in life right now. I mean, I'm only 24, so it's only been about 7 years since I've dealt with that. But I'm looking to more kind of adult things, more kind of serious, like family type issues and situations about being a grown-up and being in the workforce. And this doesn't really lead for that. This is a more of a coming of age story in the kind of modern sense of like, this kid is transitioning from childhood to adulthood, and it's taking him, you know, this whole kind of phase, and he needs to have an adventure to figure himself out. And it works, and it's fun, and it's nice, and it's enjoyable, but it's not exactly what I was looking for. And so that's why my enjoyment kind of felt a little bit less than I would have liked. And so that's what leads to a 4.5 out of 5. This is going to be great for teenagers, but it is not necessarily going to be the best for adults. So, you know, keep that in mind. But in general, I did love it. I really, really enjoyed it. I thought it was a great introduction to the character. And I do think that the Dawn of DC type story that's coming out after this is definitely going to skew more towards the adult side of things. So I'm very excited to see where it goes. And it's not necessarily a negative. It's just something that impacted my enjoyment to a certain level. So there you go. That's my thoughts on Blue Beetle. I hope you guys enjoyed the video. If you did, please leave a like, subscribe, and comment down below. Let me know your thought. And thank you guys very much for watching. I really do appreciate it, and see you guys later.